Morning, everybody, and welcome to the virtual gathering of Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm looking out over an empty sanctuary for what I hope to be one of the last times in a completely empty sanctuary, but more on that in a bit. But first, to help us enter the spirit of worship, let us calm our minds and our hearts and listen to our prelude from Karen. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning. I'm going to play the arrangement by Marquez of Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen and All Night, All Day, Angels Watching Over Me.
Thank you so much, Karen. And welcome again to the Sunday morning virtual worship service of Summit UU Fellowship. We here at Summit are a liberal religious community bound together by shared principles that are drawn from world religions, humanist teachings, nature and science, philosophy, and personal practices. We are a religion of love and inclusion, and the mission here at Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. As we always do on Sunday mornings, we want to acknowledge that our fellowship physically resides on unceded Kumeyaay land, and that for more than 10,000 years, this land has been and continues to be home to the Kumeyaay people. We recognize the violent history of colonization in California, and we also honor the legacy of the continuing presence of the Kumeyaay people. Before I introduce Reverend Lone Broussard to everyone, a couple of announcements. If Eleanor would like to go first. Morning, Eleanor.
Morning, Josh. Good morning, everybody. I am happy to announce that as of next Sunday, for those of you who would like to attend the worship service in person in the sanctuary, we're going to have it back open again. Masks will still be required if you're in a group of more than 20 people. And we want the KN94 or 95 masks, not cloth masks. We have some available in the greeting room if you do not have one. And in order to have like social hour afterwards, we're going to need people to help with setting up chairs outside under the sun sails along the side of the salon, and people to bring refreshments. And there is a Google Doc where people can sign up for any of the weeks for the next couple months to help with ushering or setup or refreshments. And please help make it possible by signing up for one of those things. Happy to announce the board met yesterday for our annual retreat, and we had a great retreat. And more news will be coming out about our goals for the year in the upcoming weeks. Thank you.
I guess I can just jump right in here for the next announcement. Hi, this is Mary, your Director of Religious Exploration. And I wanted to sort of update you along the lines of the opening next week. Kathy will be back, and Kathy and I will have childcare in the RE spaces during the service. And we're still going to continue with our 12 noon parking lot RE for families for the next 2 Sundays, because we already had those already planned out. And I am going to be sending out emails to all of our families and anybody who's interested in our family programming to gather on the last Sunday of the month in person at 1 o'clock in the parking lot, and again virtually at 6 o'clock that evening via Zoom to discuss what the future looks like for our program and what folks would like to see. So I need your input in order for us to have a program that is driven by the needs of this community. So I look forward to seeing folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. This morning, we are delighted to once again welcome back Reverend Lone Broussard to our pulpit. For those of you who may not know, Reverend Lone Jensen Broussard grew up in Copenhagen, Denmark, lived in Baghdad, Iraq for 7 years, and she served in churches in Chicago, Illinois, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Wilmington, North Carolina, Chandler, Arizona, and Birmingham, Alabama, before retiring to here in San Diego, where her son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter live. Una holds a degree in psychology and a Master of Fine Arts from Louisiana State University, as well as a Master's of Divinity from Meadville Lombard Theological School. And we are so lucky to have her back here this morning. We're so glad that you also have chosen this morning for a time of connection and reflection with us. And we invite you to stay after the service for our community gathering. We'll be free to share a thought, ask the pastor a question about the sermon, or just give us an update on something in your life. And now to begin our service properly, let's begin by lighting our chalice. Blessed is the fire that burns deep in the soul. It is the flame of the human spirit touched into being by the mystery of life. It is the fire of reason, the fire of compassion, the fire of community, the fire of justice, the fire of faith. It is the fire of love burning deep in the human heart, the divine glow in every life. And now let us join together while muted and sing our, UU hymn in both English and Spanish.
speranza, fe, amor, verdad y belleza cantando de cada tierra, cada voz.
From all who dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue.
And now please join me while still muted. Won't it be fun next week if you're in the sanctuary, you won't have to mute yourself? For our UU aspiration. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now it's time to send it all over to Mary Carter Vale. This morning's Time for All Ages. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. Good morning. So I have a story for you called One Flower in a Field. And this is a story from our Tapestry of Faith, which is a curriculum that's put together by the UUA that religious educators have access to. So that's where I came to the story from. And it has a rabbit in it. So I brought one of my puppets out. So once upon a time, there was a field. It had dry grasses and brambles and thistles and high places and low places and rocks scattered all around, and a stream that passed alongside. And here, there, and everywhere were flowers. There were buttercups and tulips and coneflowers and lupins and all kinds of bright, beautiful flowers growing up out of this dry grass. Now, you may ask, how could these flowers grow when the field is so dry? How could they grow? The answer is that next to each flower was a hole in the ground. And in each hole, there lived an animal whose job it was to tend to that flower. Most were rabbits, but there were also hedgehogs and field mice and even a badger or two, or maybe even a skunk. Every morning, each animal would come out of its hole and hop or scurry down to the stream and use a leaf to scoop up some water. And then they would hop or scurry back to their flower and water their flower with their little leaf. So in the gully in this field, next to a tall sunflower, lived a rabbit. Here's her tall sunflower. And every day she would hop down to the stream, get her leaf, get some water, and water the sunflower. She loved that flower, and it was as tall and bright and strong and healthy, and she took very good care of it. It was her pride and joy. So one afternoon, the rabbit decided to hop onto the top of the hill alongside her gully, slightly different path. And when she got to the very top, she saw something that she'd never seen before. Down a ways, she saw a flower. It might have been a daisy, but it was hard to tell. This flower looked so sad and in bad shape. Now, why had she never seen a flower like that before, or seen that flower in particular? It's not a big mystery. She had just never climbed that particular little hill. She was looking at it from a different perspective. And of course, she knew the field was full of flowers, and she may have heard some were not doing quite so well as her sunflower, but she'd never actually seen one that looked as bad as this one. Well, she hopped down the hill to take a closer look, and then she began to understand this flower needed some water. Its stem was bent, its petals were wilting in the heat, and the ground around it was parched and dry. And the rabbit felt bad as that flower could be so neglected. And then she did nothing. Even though the flower looked terrible, it was just one flower in the field. After all, and the field had plenty of other flowers that were doing just fine. And the rabbit had enough work to do watering her own flower. So she went home and got on with her business of getting up every morning, going to the stream, watering her sunflower every morning. But the other flower didn't go away. At least once a day, the rabbit couldn't help but going up to that top view and looking down, just taking a quick look at that sad little flower. She just couldn't resist every day. It started to get to her. The rabbit thought about nothing other than that flower at night while she was trying to sleep. She thought about it in the morning when she hopped to the stream for water. She couldn't even enjoy her own flower so much, knowing that the other flower was wilting more and more every day. Now, you may wonder why the rabbit didn't just go over there and water that flower. After all, it's not that far away, right? Just on the other side of the hill, and the stream had plenty of water, and the rabbit had plenty of time. And that's a very good question. The rabbit thought about it all the time. She'd think about making an extra trip to the stream to get some water for that flower. And then she'd think, well, you don't just march into someone's front yard and water their flowers without asking, do you? And what if that flower is someone else's to water? They might yell at me or do something. Or she'd think, what if that flower likes being dried up and droopy? That's possible, isn't it? Or she'd think, aren't there who are supposed to go around and help out flowers whose animals don't water them? I should leave that to them, right? With all these questions swirling in her head, the rabbit went about her business, taking care of her sunflower every day and trying not to think about the other flower. But it kept bothering her, especially at night. It was kind of irritating, actually. Sometimes she wished the flower would just get better by itself or die. But every time she sneaked a peek, it was a little more dry, and a little more wilty, and a little more droopy. Finally, the rabbit could stand it no longer. One morning, hopping from the stream with a leaf full of water for her sunflower, she suddenly thought, it's just not right. Flowers are not supposed to wilt like that. Flowers should be healthy and colorful and bright and beautiful. And she found herself hopping over the hill towards the other flower and taking the water there instead. Well, as the rabbit hopped at the top of the hill, Rabbit got nervous and her nose twitched and she sniffed the air. It might be dangerous over there, she thought. Rabbits are very fearful for a good reason. It might be dangerous over there. She shouldn't go watering other animals' flowers. But then she said, it's just not right, and kept going over the hill and down the other side. And as the rabbit hopped closer to the dry flower, closer than she'd ever been before, suddenly a hedgehog appeared, popped out of the hole in the ground, and the hedgehog yelled, hey, what are you doing? And the rabbit hopped close. The rabbit said, I'm just going to water this flower. The rabbit said, it's too dry, and if I don't water, it'll die. And Hedgehog said, what business is it of yours whether this flower dies? This is my flower, and I'll take care of it how I want. Go home and take care of your own flower. But the rabbit answered, I'm sorry, I tried that. Flowers are supposed to be bright and beautiful, not wilting and droopy. I'm going to water this flower. And she watered the dry, wilted, drooping daisy right in front of the hedgehog, and though he fussed and mumbled and gave her mean looks. And then she turned around and hopped back over the hill. The next day, she came back with a leaf full of water and watered it again. And after that, she watered it again. And the hedgehog continued to fuss and mumble and gave the rabbit a mean look, but the flower started to look better. It's first the petals perked up a little bit, and then the stem kind of straightened up. And it began to stand a little straighter, and then the leaves started to fill out and get bigger. And the flower, it even grew a little taller. And strangely enough, as this flower got brighter and healthier and taller and more beautiful, so did the rabbit's own flower. And so did every other flower in the field. and even ones that were never watered. The flowers she'd never seen before, they all started to look more strong and beautiful and healthy. And the whole field began to brighten as the colors of every flower became more vivid and the flowers stretched taller, almost as if there was more water for everyone. How could this be? Were other rabbits and hedgehogs and field mice and even badgers and skunks sneaking around and watering every flower? Or was it because when someone waters the wilting flower somewhere, all flowers everywhere get a little bit brighter? Who knows? Maybe we just have to try and see what happens. So, have you ever experienced anything like this? It takes all of us to make the flowers bloom and grow. And sometimes it feels like we're very alone. Has anybody felt alone recently or for a while? It's like you're just the only one. But when everybody helps a little bit, it makes things a little bit better. And it helps to bring more hope into the world for me. So we're getting ready to open up again and have things in person, and we need help watering the flowers in the form of volunteers. So I hope that all of you will take a little piece, pick up your leaf and find a way to help and water, because it brings us all hope. So thank you very much for listening to my story this morning.
Thank you, Mary. And now this morning, a reading from John Muir. I'd like to introduce Reverend Lone Broussard.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here over Zoom again. And like all of you, perhaps, I'm looking forward to one day being able to see you in person. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And Mary, that was perfect. Absolutely the perfect story. You did not disappoint. I have a reading by John Muir. I consider him a prophet. He's kind of the prophet of the wilderness. And he had all the passion that the prophets have. And that's probably something we need a lot more of. The sun shines not on us, but in us. The rivers flow not past, but through us, thrilling, tingling, vibrating every fiber and cell of the substance of our bodies, making them glide and sing. The trees wave and the flowers bloom in our bodies, as well as our souls. And every bird song, wind song, and tremendous storm song of the rocks in the heart of the mountains is our song, our very own, and sings our love.
Source of all to thee tower of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
We here at Summit are a fellowship supported entirely by the voluntary generosity of our members and friends, and we greatly appreciate our faithful pledgers who continue to keep up their contributions. We would be most grateful if you would consider making a contribution today, and we make it easier than ever to contribute to the virtual plate. The link can be found right down in the chat box. Click on it and it will take you directly to the donation location. And now we will gratefully accept generous donations during our musical interlude. Good morning again.
Hello, I'm going to play the Romance in F major by Brahms, Opus 118, number 5.
For my pastoral prayer today, I have chosen a poem by Denise Levertov. She's one of my favorite poets. And if you're in a space today where you need some healing, or maybe some encouragement, or maybe some hope, and who doesn't need hope? Listen to it with that in mind. And after I finish, we'll have a moment of silence so you can lift up what you need to this day. Don't say, there's no water to solace the dryness of our hearts. I have seen the fountain springing out of the rock wall and you drinking there. And I too, before your eyes, found foothold and climbed to drink cool water. The woman of that place, shading her eyes, frowned as she watched, but not because she grudged the water, only because she was waiting to see we drank our fill and were refreshed. Don't say there is no water. The fountain is there, among its scalloped green and gray stones. It's still there. It's always there, with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us, up and out through the rock. Let's sit in silence. Amen. So be it. And now we're switching gears a little. We're going into the sermon. Kind of like showtime, you know. The title of today's sermon is How Do We Celebrate and Treasure What Remains of Love and Beauty When So Much Has Been Lost? How do we keep from falling into despair? And as happened often, it's a sermon about what I too need to learn. Like preachers preach about what they need to learn. Let me begin first with a check-in. How are you doing this morning? Are you somehow managing to stay cool in body and soul in this, the hottest summer on record in human history? And are you, as I am, really, really tired of hearing and watching the bad news all the time? What a sizzling, steamy summer this has been. It's been hot, 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 hot in places we've never seen before. And the image of someone frying eggs in a frying pan on the asphalt in the middle of the road seems to sum it up really well. But instead of like the old commercial, you know, your brain's on drugs, the earth's on drugs. Anyhow, not on drugs, but, you know, being fried. We have had record heat waves all over the globe. France, Italy, Spain had forest fires. People in Britain suffered in houses that were built to keep them warm. So much for the idea and the stereotype of cuddling up in an easy chair in front of a fireplace, cozy fireplace and reading a British murder mystery. Oh no, not this summer. If you can find an air conditioning, 80% of houses don't have any in Northern Europe, you would stand in front of it and raise your arms and try to be cool. Events that were once described as a 100-year flood, such as in Kentucky, where it was devastation and destruction, now seems to happen all the time. Lake Mead is giving up old boat wrecks and human remains as the water level drops. And the driest and hottest place on earth, Death Valley, had a flood. Yes, a flood in Death Valley. The storm poured an amount of water equal to 75% of the average annual rainfall in just 3 hours, according to experts as NASA Earth Observatory. Daniel Burke, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Las Vegas, described the deluge as a historic 1,000-year event. And we all know that fire season is year-round now here in California. So it seems to me that Mother Earth, Mother Nature, is really angry with us. Or is the earth itself trying to shake us off? Some of you may remember the old commercial where Mother Nature, dressed properly as a goddess in flowing garlands and with flowers in her hair, tastes margarines and realize it's not butter. So she was. It's not nice to fool Mother Nature. Well, we have tried to do that for far too long. Hey, pesky little humans, when are you gonna get the message? Seriously, much has indeed been lost and is still getting lost. Precious species are lost, glaciers are melting, and oceans are rising. Now, those of us who care, like the rabbit who went over the hill, and actually doing something, fight hard. But yes, it can seem hopeless. Is it too late? It's not too late. It will never be too late. There is still beauty out there that remains beauty out there that we can preserve, treasure, and love. And we are lucky here in San Diego. I sort of live in a little cocoon of moderate temperatures, or relatively moderate temperatures. But you out there in San Diego, well, you know it's hot. Now, where I live is in St. Paul's Senior Housing. They're renovating our apartments. And as a part of that renovation, they are building a new ramp out front, which is a very good thing for those of us who don't move so well. But in the spot where the ramp is going to go, there was a beautiful old Norfolk pine. It grew 11 stories tall, and it had to go. It was quite a spectacle watching it go. It was a very difficult task. It was going right next to the building. And how do you cut down a thing like that without hitting anything or anyone? I watched as one brave guy, I hope they paid him well, climbed all the way up the trunk. And then as he cut off large branches and let them fall. And then he chopped down the top, which would have made a very nice Christmas tree. And guess what? The top landed precisely in the waiting truck. It's amazing skills, amazing courage. Just looking at him up there, attached by a few straps, gave me butterflies in my stomach. And though I hated to see the tree go, it is a joy to see someone really knowing what they are doing and doing it. So now the tree is gone. And yes, it had to go. Not just because of ramp construction, but it was going over water pipes. And you all know what opportunistic invaders tree roots are. The last thing we need is more issues with water. But it will be missed by those of us who live close to it. When I first moved in, I was on the 5th floor. And as I showed off my new place to my granddaughter, Ella, she said, "But you're living in a tree house." Squirrels ran up and down in this green growing world as they played and courted each other. And this tree added beauty to my day. Now it's gone. And like it is with other losses in our lives, I have a choice. I can focus upon its absence. Excuse me. I can look at the rather ugly aftermath of stumps and torn up vegetation. Or I can say, thanks for the memories, and move on. Personally, I had chosen to pick up a couple of cones. And when they open up, I will start some seedlings. So in that sense, the spirit of the tree will live on. Although, as some of the residents pointed out to me, those will not be trees in your lifetime. No, they won't. But that's what hope's about. To plan for future generations. To plan for 7 generations. And that takes faith. It takes real faith to plant that way. If you want to become more aware of what good is being done and what wilderness remains, I recommend the PBS series America Outdoors with Baratunde Thurston. In his exploration of Minnesota, called A Better World, he came upon a farming couple who were growing tiny tree seedlings and planting them for the future to replace the current conifers that probably won't make it as the earth heats up. They grew trees that do better in the heat. In Iceland, they are planting trees where forests once grew before they cut it down for all the Viking ships or whatever. And in Scotland, they're returning the glens to their natural forested state. And while I really don't want to get into politics, nope, I do want to say that Congress passed the most climate-friendly bill in modern history. Not enough, but it's a start. How we look at and interpret reality matters a great deal. For example, because of the renovation, there's been a really huge open, dug out hole around the water main outside for a long time now. And my little dog, Jeff, and me have entirely different ideas about what this hole is for. He wants to jump into it so badly, he pulls and pulls on his leash. He wants to get in there and fulfill every dog's dream of digging the biggest hole in canine history. Whereas I worry about his safety, and I don't want him to get muddy. So we have a choice. We can be like the ancient prophet Jeremiah. We can tear our clothes, we can moan, as we focus on all the bad news. I suspect Jeremiah was never very popular. Or we can instead change our focus on all the work being done in many large and small ways. There are plenty of examples young people like Greta Thunberg and Boyan Slat. Boyan, at the age of 16, founded the Ocean Cleanup, a nonprofit engineering environmental organization based in the Netherlands that develops technology to extract plastic pollution from the oceans and intercept them in rivers before they reach the ocean. He was inspired by snorkeling and seeing far more plastic and fish. If I ask you here this morning, what are you doing and what have you done? I think a lot of you will be like the rabbit that went over the hill. I bet you'll discover you are already doing a lot. My granddaughter went with her college friends to pick up trash at Mission Beach. My son's house has solar panels, and he diligently collects rainwater in barrels. And you won't find any lawn there, but gorgeous succulents. I went to school in Chicago. And of course, it's a metropolis, a huge city. But near there is a state park that's called the Indiana Dunes, borders on Lake Michigan. 1 hour's drive from Chicago. You can be at one with the wilderness, walk on the shoreline, enjoy the forest, and hear the shifting sand sing. It was almost lost. A seminary professor of mine, Ron Engel, wrote a book about it called The Sacred Sands. To get there, you have to drive for about an hour to a now deserted industrial hell. Ugly and polluted remnants of the now dead steel industry. All of the shoreline could have been like that. Now, one of the dunes defenders was Illinois Senator Paul Douglas, who said, "When I was young, I wanted to save the world. When I was in the Senate, I wanted to save the United States. Now that I'm old, I just want to save what remains of the dunes." The wonderful thing about it was the battle crossed party lines, class divides, and involved many different faiths. Democracy and ecology made a holy alliance. And once the eyes were opened to the beauty inherent in this land, the people wanted to save it. From a religious perspective, the question became, how can we destroy what we believe is sacred? It's really a story of redemption. We can choose to ignore and neglect a treasure, in this case, the Indiana Dunes. But we can also redeem ourselves once we realize it is in danger, and we can work for its salvation. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, there is a strong strand interwoven and close to our hearts, where we find God or the sacred in nature. Just think of the Transcendentalist and Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, where he himself becomes a transparent eyeball. John Muir wrote of his experiences in the wilderness as religious ecstasy. I'm in the woods, and they are in me. The king tree and me has sworn eternal love, and I've taken the sacrament with Douglas squirrels, drank sequoia wine, sequoia blood, and with its rosy purple drops, I am writing this woody gospel letter. I wish that I could preach the green brown woods to all the juiceless world, descending from this divine wilderness like a John Baptist crying, repent, for the kingdom of the sequoia is at hand. Personally, I want my granddaughter to be able to see the redwoods. I want her to be able to swim in the oceans and see fish and not so many water bubbles. I want her to see what remains of the Colorado River before it's totally dried out. And somewhere in the world, this is a prayer, when she is fully grown, may there still be polar bears and ice floats. This sermon is about a deep connection to nature and to this so precious and endangered earth. But it's also about our souls longing for joy. Climate change has come home to roost, and it is hard to watch. It's tempting to turn away and try to avoid the pain. But then we cut ourselves off from what beauty and love still remains. Our souls need hope and solace. We need an oasis in the middle of the bad news desert. Imagine that after a long hike in the dry canyons, you come to a place, a spring, where water springs from a rock. Cool, healing water to quench your thirst, sparkling in the sun. Drink your fill. Amen.
Stepping on these mountains and plains,
As we close our service by extinguishing our chalice, I want to invite you to stay afterwards for our community gathering and community chat where we can chat with Reverend Luna. Also heartily invite you all to come back to your screens, or better yet, come to Summit next week where Reverend Arvid Strawberry will be speaking from right here. So please join us then. But now to close our service, as I extinguish the chalice, if Reverend Luna could read the words of the chalice extinguishing words.
These words are from the Navajo. On the trail of beauty, there I wander. In the house of happiness, there I wander. Beauty before me, there I wander. Beauty behind me, there I wander. Beauty above me, there I wander. Beauty below me, there I wander. All around me, in old age traveling, on the trail of beauty, with beauty I wander. With beauty I wander.
Together hand in hand, in fellowship we stand. Before we go, we'll share the glow of standing.